Hey everyone, Simon here with Top Tennis Training, and in this video I want to show you a simple trick to get more power on your serve but also make you a better server in general. Now many players, they think about how much power they can produce on their serve, so they think about the miles per hour or the kilometers per hour. So they might think, okay, I'm reaching 95, I'm reaching 100 miles per hour on my serve. And if we look at the best pros in the world, some of the fastest servers, they're hitting 140s, and even some players are hitting 150 and above. But something that is greatly neglected when you look at most club players is the speed of their motion, which then turns into having more disguise. Now if my motion is quite slow and I give my opponent a lot of time to see my action, they can start to pick up on slight differences where I'm going to toss the ball, how much I rotate my body, the positioning of my feet. So they can start to pick up those slight differences if I'm going out wide or if I'm going down the tee, if I'm going for a slice serve or if I'm going for a kick serve. So it becomes a much easier serve for my opponent to read the longer my motion is. Now before we go any deeper into the video, I just want to mention, if you're serious about improving your game, then make sure you have subscribed to the channel and you turn on the notification bell. If you analyze your serve from the starting position and you time this for yourself, it doesn't matter if you have a drop like a Federer, or if you have an abbreviated take back like Nadal, or even someone like Groth with a really short take back. But however you get to that trophy position and out of that position, time your serve from the starting position to the point of contact. Now some of the best servers of all time, players that had powerful serves but also very hard to read serves. If you think about someone like often the returners would say, I just had no idea where they were going. Now when you look at most club players, it's around 1.5 to 2 seconds from the starting position to the point of contact. And if we break down some of the fastest servers in the world, some of the players who had the most disguise on their serve, they're doing it in under a second. So the speed of the motion is much faster, it's almost twice as fast as most club players. So they're getting from this position, and it doesn't matter the swing. If we look at Kyrgios, who drops the racket and then comes up to that trophy position, he's doing it in around 0.9 seconds on average. If we look at someone like Groth, who was a very big server, someone who served with the wooden rackets and later with the metal rackets, but he was still hitting serves in the 130s, and even at some tournaments they registered his serve at 140. Between the start of his motion and his contact point, he was doing it on average around 0.8 seconds, so even quicker than Kyrgios. Even Isavic is below 1 second as well, he's around 0.9. And if we look at many of the players who are very hard to read, their serve is below 1 second. Don't forget guys, you can download our free serve guide, 5 steps to hitting the perfect tennis serve. I'll leave the link below this video. All you have to do is click on that link, that will take you to our website. You simply enter your email address in that box and we'll send you that PDF right away. So if you can make your serve from the starting position to the point of contact in under a second, one thing it's going to do is make it very hard for your opponent to read. Now the longer the swing, the more time they'll have to read, they'll pick up on those slight differences, but also your muscles aren't working in the most explosive way. Now if I want to jump very high, if I want to reach as high as I can, I go into my knee bend in a very slow and controlled way. So I go down and then I jump, my muscles are working explosively on the way up, but on the way down they haven't really fired as much as they can. But if I want to jump as high as I can and I go down and up quickly, from here, down and up, now my muscles are working at their maximum capacity. So I'm really firing in the most explosive way with my muscles. Now if I have that long pause, I'm losing that explosive power that I could have if I went down and up. Often you'll see players talking about the pause on, let's say, a Roddick serve. So Andy Roddick, he starts off in that position, and as he gets into that power position, his power position is very different to most servers. His racket is on edge like this, but from here he has a tiny pause, which is 0.2 seconds on average. Now a 0.2 second pause isn't really a pause when you compare it to the players who are pausing in that same position for a second. So if you think about it in terms of how long is that pause, is it 0.2 seconds or is it a second or even more? Now the more you pause, the longer that pause, the more explosive power you're losing. I'm now losing a lot of that explosive power from the legs and from all the muscles that I've coiled up. If you think about it in terms of a forehand, if I get into that power position, coil my upper body and stop there, it's almost like I'm resetting. Stopped, and then I explode. Whereas if I get into that power position and keep the swing going, keep that momentum going, now it's going to look like this. So a simple way for you to get more power on your serve without changing the motion is simply timing that ball toss. So trying to hit it close to the apex. Now often players will say this is very hard to do, the timing is very hard. There's even some online coaches who have made videos about why you shouldn't try to hit the ball near the apex. But what they're all forgetting is, even if you aim to hit at the apex but you miss it, let's say you drop a few inches below that apex, even if your ball toss is a few inches above that contact point, that's still a much better ball toss compared to someone who's tossing it 4, 5 or even 6 feet above their point of contact. The higher I toss the ball, the faster it's going to be traveling when I'm trying to make contact. So if I toss the ball 6 feet above my contact point, the ball's now picking up speed and it's going to be very hard for me to time that ball and hit it clean. But if I'm tossing the ball only a few inches above my point of contact, now it's almost as if the ball has stopped and I'm hitting the ball on that stationary spot. So the ball's rising, the ball hits the apex and it starts to drop. And the closer we can get to that apex, the closer we get to hitting a stationary ball. That's one of the main reasons why, for me, hitting the ball at the apex or close to the apex is one of the easiest ways for players to instantly improve their serve. Not only that, but a lower ball toss will make it a lot easier for you to deal with the wind. If you toss the ball very high in windy conditions, you're really going to struggle. The wind's going to be blowing your toss around and it's going to be very hard for you to get that timing and that rhythm on your serve. But if you're tossing the ball quite low, just to around the point of contact and then making contact, then it becomes a much easier serve to deal with the wind. Not only that, but the less time you give that player to see the ball toss, the returner, the less time they have to pick up on those slight differences. So it's not only the miles per hour that you can produce on that serve, but it's how quick you can get through your motion, and that will make you a more dominant server and someone who's very hard to break because they won't have any idea, your opponents won't know where you're hitting those serves, they won't know what kind of spin you're using, and it'll be very hard for them to start getting that timing and that read on your serve. Now, a common issue that players have when they're trying to learn this faster motion is timing. Now, of course, timing is going to be much harder than if you throw the ball high and you give yourself a lot of time to get through your motion. But it's a very simple way to fix that. If you can serve from the trophy position and have that ball just around the apex and then making contact, that means you can time it from that trophy position, which means all you have to work on now is getting into that trophy position much quicker. So if I'm able to hit the apex or close to the apex serving from that trophy position, it means the issue is not me dealing with that lower ball toss, it's more the timing of getting into that trophy position. So if I can time a good serve from here, simply toss and hit, if I can do that timing, then from this position to the point of contact, now it's just about how I actually get into that power position. Once again, we're not stopping in that power position, we're simply passing through that position. So it's not like I'm getting into that position, having a long pause and then going. I'm simply getting there and then going from that position. So for me, when I was learning this faster motion, I found out that I had to speed up this part of my serve. Worked on simply getting from here into that position as quick as I can. So I would work on just dropping the racket and getting it into that position. Dropping and lifting, dropping and lifting. And as I made this faster, then I realized that I can actually lower the toss even lower and I could still hit the ball close to that apex. So it will take some getting used to. You don't have to change your actual service mechanics. So if you're someone who drops the racket like a Federer and lifts the racket up, you can do your exact same motion as you currently do, but just speed it up. So even by aiming to hit the ball at that apex, you may always have a slight drop, and that's fine, but your serve will have a massive benefit over the players who are tossing the ball 8 feet above their point of contact. The closer you can get to that apex, the more benefits you'll get. Now, another issue that players will tell me is, well, those pros that you're showing us, the players like Kyrgios, players like Sam Groth, Goran Ivanisevic, these players practice all day long. And that's true, and that's something that they've developed over time. They've developed that serve over many years of training it. But that doesn't mean that we can't also aim to hit the ball close to that apex. It doesn't mean that we can't also aim to have a quick motion. We may never achieve that kind of speed that they have. We may never have that same timing. We may never actually hit the ball at the apex, but just the fact that we're aiming for it will help us to speed up the motion. Same thing with the ball toss. I may never actually hit the ball at the apex, but if I'm aiming to hit it at the apex, my ball toss naturally will go much lower. I'll have less issues with the wind, and my opponent will have less time to pick up on my serve. So there are so many benefits to having this faster motion, and the major disadvantage is when you're firstly learning it, the timing will go off, but with practice, you'll start to get it. You'll start to feel when you have to toss the ball, and then rise up as quickly as you can. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn on the notification bell. Signing off, Simon from TTT. All the best, and see you soon, guys. Stay safe.